Welcome to another thought-provoking episode of Unmasking Tamworth, exposing the underbelly. What I'm about to reveal will undoubtedly make you question everything you thought you knew about trust, governance, and justice in Australia. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is meticulously documented corruption. This is Tamworth, a town that hides its sinister secrets behind rolling countryside and small-town charm. Tamworth, New South Wales, Australia. The country music capital of Australia, a place where families grow up, neighbors know one another, and everything seems harmonious at first glance. But scratch the surface, and you'll find a web of deceit, corruption, and crime, unparalleled in scale and shamelessness. Let's begin with a zip across the timeline to August 2017. Here we find the then Tamworth mayor, Colin Murray, flying to China. A seemingly straightforward diplomatic mission. Nothing unusual about that, right? Except that this wasn't an ordinary business trip. Evidence reveals that during this trip, illicit deals were struck, intentional torts were orchestrated, contracts were interfered with, and corrupt back-channel dealings were initiated, all on Chinese soil. These weren't harmless acts of diplomacy. They were calculated maneuvers to secure personal wealth for cartel-affiliated cronies. Fast forward, and this same individual, Colin Murray, now occupies a cushy, high-paying role at Infrastructure Australia. How was this possible? How does a man engulfed in criminal accusations ascend to such a prestigious position? The answer lies in his connections. Connections like Barnaby Joyce, a name synonymous with scandals, and Kevin Anderson, whose commitment to public service seems to be replaced with allegiance to a circle of unlawful activity. Together, this unholy trinity has used its influence to bend systems and manipulate those in public service who dare to stand in their way, coercing anyone unwilling into silent compliance. The scale of their crimes, staggering. From financial fraud exceeding $10 million in just one instance related to surface water licenses, to laundering money through domestic and international banks. Nothing escapes their reach. Not resources, not our water supplies, and certainly not the trust of the Australian public. Their unchecked greed even extends to delaying and manipulating critical infrastructure, like the Dungowan Dam, which had the potential to deliver 500 megawatts of renewable energy and a brighter future. Where is that future now? Stolen, traded for personal gain. And what about these so-called infrastructure projects? The truth is as sinister as it is shocking. Many of the announced infrastructures to justify public expenditure never existed. Millions of taxpayers' dollars funneled away, allegedly into the pockets of government officials, with not a single brick laid to show for it. Even beyond Tamworth, their crimes permeate international borders. Ever heard of collusion with foreign dignitaries, rigging markets, and antitrust violations that irreparably harm the principles of free market and commerce? Welcome to the real Tamworth, an epicenter of deceit that has cost not just billions, but the very souls of communities. But let's bring it back home, shall we? Imagine being a global businessman, coming to Tamworth on the invitation of local government, enamored with the promise of revitalizing the local economy, generating thousands of jobs, and building a brand new, world-class infrastructure. This man saw potential beyond the postcards, investing not only his resources, but also his heart into this community. Yet what happened next would leave anyone speechless. Council officials plotted, schemed, and ultimately circumvented his efforts, using violence. Yes, outright violence orchestrated with local police and false accusations. They muscled him out, stealing not just his work, but his dream. These actions weren't rogue elements. They were systematic deceptions. The same council, which had celebrated his investment and effort, turned around and tore him down. They canceled contracts, stole his opportunities, and defamed him in the most brutal and unrelenting manner. Why? To protect their own racketeering activities, their drug trafficking networks, and their friends in shady enterprises. They demonstrated no hesitation in exploiting even their own community's welfare for their gain. And now we arrive at the residents of Tamworth themselves, a community shattered by collateral damage. Unemployment reigns, drug addiction festers, retail businesses fold under the weight of extortionate fines and unlawful police harassment. Tamworth's college graduates leave, clamoring for better opportunities elsewhere as this once promising town crumbles inward. National baseball initiatives, swimming center proposals, sports complexes. What do they all have in common? None of them came to fruition. Projects that could have ruled headlines for the right reasons became buried stories in a pile of corruption. Their budgets evidently siphoned away into accounts we'll never see. Every layer of our public institutions appears tainted. Even law enforcement has ceased to function as guardians of safety and peace. Instead, they have become accomplices to crimes. Evidence from whistleblowers has surfaced, revealing direct involvement of police officers in trafficking drugs and coordinating attacks on innocent civilians. Officers who are meant to uphold justice are instead the puppets of a larger, sinister force. They protect and further the illegal operations rather than dismantle them. Then there's the legal system. Where do you turn for justice when the courts themselves partake in the corruption? Magistrates, court administrators, and judicial consultants delve into bribery, manipulate case files, and dismiss evidence to appease their cohorts. The layers of malfeasance run deep enough to erode every semblance of fairness. What about ordinary civilians? Good, honest Tamworth residents are unlawfully fined, taxed, and extorted, made scapegoats of an unjust justice system. Life savings are wiped out by staged legal events, orchestrated to benefit legal insiders. Families are rendered destitute as officials rob them under the guise of law and order. And Tamworth isn't exceptional. It is symptomatic. A microcosm of a national epidemic that reveals just how broken the Australian bureaucracy is. If Tamworth couldn't protect its citizens, its businesses, and its future from internal corruption. What hope do other regions have? But here's the crux, everyone. If this breakdown of public service and law enforcement doesn't spark outrage, ask yourselves why you're willing to accept criminality as a normal part of leadership. Why tolerate a system whose survival depends on draining its people dry? Not all hope is lost. A brave, determined few are pushing back. Heroes who refuse to accept bribes, who collect evidence, and who risk everything in the name of honesty and restoration. Tamworth doesn't have to maintain its sordid reputation. It can rise and redeem itself, but only if enough people rise against these criminal enterprises percolating within. The choice rests in your hands. Will you turn a blind eye, swept up in the illusion of a tranquil town? Or will you demand better from your leaders, your judiciary, and your law enforcement? The evidence is there, crystal clear, waiting to be acted upon. Let this episode serve not just as a wake-up call for Tamworth, but as a plea to Australians everywhere. Take a stand. The time for silence is over. If you want your communities to thrive once more, it begins with accountability. Thank you for tuning into Unmasking Tamworth, exposing the underbelly. The question remains, what will you do now that the mask has slipped?